John Wick Chapter 4 was another very big success at the box office and just what the cinema industry needs after the pandemic era. It's now out on 4K disc and there are a myriad of releases, and this is a standard release which I purchased from HMV for £24.95. Worth taking a look, so let's take a look at this, another very good 4K release. Before I get started, this is actually the first John Wick film I've seen. I was going to get the 1 to 4 box set, but they didn't have that in HMV, so I thought I'd make a start with Chapter 4, see how I get on. I didn't think there'd be too much trouble because all sequels usually, they tend to explain enough early on that you don't feel you needed to see the previous film or films in order to follow this. But I did find quite quickly that I thought I really should have seen the previous film because there didn't seem to be any explanation, but perhaps I just needed to see the first film so I could then follow everything that was going on in this. But alas, it was just get in there, wham bam, shoot 'em up, and it didn't stop from beginning to end. And I think that's something you have to be prepared for with this film, which I certainly am now, and I think I would enjoy a whole lot more a second time around. But I think you just have to put your mindset into this is not a film that you're going to need a lot of brain power to take in. You're just going to sit there and watch the thrill ride as it unfolds in front of you. I did feel it was a little like a computer game, so I'm not sure if this is where its origins are or what its influences are, but I felt like it was one of those computer games where you see players going along, shooting everything in sight, stabbing at everything in sight, and so it is pretty violent. There's a bit of bad language in there, there's no sex, but I think you've got to bear that in mind if you're going to sit down and watch this one. It's not going to be an intelligent, let's try and work this film out, Tenet sort of thing. It's John Wick Chapter 4, and it's just action from beginning to end during its whole running time, which is 2 hours and 49 minutes. It has an aspect ratio of approximately 2.40 to 1, and it comes with Dolby Atmos sound. Now that is the same on both the Blu-ray in this pack and the 4K, and indeed all the extras are on both discs too. It had an estimated budget of $90 million and it grossed at the worldwide box office $428 million. Now it may still be on general release in places around the world, so that may go up still a little further yet, but I'm sure it's going to be a big success on disc because judging by some of the videos I've seen that people have made out there, a lot of people truly love this film. And there's one unboxing that I'll point you to, and that's Electric Geek. And if you don't know Andy Electric Geek, he does do some very good reviews of 4Ks and all sorts of other things. He's close to the Air branch of HMV, and he did feature in one of my videos when I was doing tours of HMVs around the country, and Andy supplied one of his Air branch, which was excellent. So if you've seen that, you'll know roughly what to expect, but he's got very good content, and the unboxing he's done is of the HMV first edition release. One thing I picked up, the disc faces on those discs in that pack are different and better to the disc faces in this standard edition pack. So I would not have spotted that if it wasn't for Andy, and his enthusiasm for this film made me want to get this and take a look at it. So I'll leave a link to that video in the description below, and worth getting over there to take a look. Now then, getting back to this review of John Wick Chapter 4, it was shot entirely in 4.5K digital video and downscale to 4K video for cinema release, digital cinema package, and it does look very good indeed. The colours are beautiful. However, I don't think this is up there with the best capabilities of anamorphic 35mm, and I'd probably point you to my recent review of Double Jeopardy, which I think looks better than this in terms of definition. I don't suppose the colour's quite as impactful in that, but it might be. I didn't do a direct comparison, but I prefer the look of Double Jeopardy. And there could be other reasons for that. The sunlight, everything's done just about outdoors in that one. Looks beautiful. This one is all very dark, but the colours are fabulous. It's just the definition is not as good as you would expect from a good anamorphic 35mm. Now what's interesting is I can remember seeing some promotional material for this, and Keanu Reeves talks about IMAX, and I thought, they've shot it with the IMAX video cameras. I'm not sure if that's the case, because I'm pretty sure that Top Gun Maverick was a lot better than this in terms of definition, where they went to the 1.90 frame video IMAX, and that was impressive. One of the best 4K discs there is, probably in the top 10 anyway, and might be quite a way up that top 10. But this does not look as good to me as most good 35mm. So that's something to bear in mind. The colour I think is better than most, and I don't think you'll be at all disappointed with it. You might look at it on smaller screens and think it's absolutely wonderful and one of the best you've seen. But something to bear in mind, if you're projecting this to any size, you might think it's not quite as good as you were expecting, given that it does say on the end, optimised for IMAX cinemas. Now, I don't know how that was done with an aspect ratio of 2.40 to 1, but perhaps they had different aspect ratios for the cinema release. I'm sure someone will point me in the right direction on that in the comments below. But I did look it up on IMDb, and it only specifies the scope ratio, which is the same as on this 4K disc. It comes with Dolby Atmos sound. I'm running THX51 in here. It sounded absolutely fantastic. I think you're going to love the soundtrack on this, particularly if you've got a very good Atmos system and you've actually got the speakers built into the ceiling. I can imagine the gunshots going off all around the room, and when he gets in that car towards the end, I think that's going to be screeching all around the room. And I think he's knocked over 4 times by cars. I'm not sure if he's supposed to be playing a human or a Superman, but whatever it is, it's certainly good fun. And if this is the sort of thing you're into, then I think you're going to love this 4K disc. Interestingly, the 4K is superior, perhaps far superior to the Blu-ray to look at, and it's the colour that makes the difference. So once again, HDR being the standout feature. Now, this could be significant this time because both of them would have come from the same digital video master and simply converted to their respective formats. But the colour of that 4K makes it so much more involving to look at that you really can't look at the Blu-ray once you've enjoyed that 4K. All the fighting and the battles must have taken one heck of a lot of choreography and planning, but there are occasions early on where I could see that the stuntmen were almost hanging around for the actors to do their next twist or turn. You probably won't be distracted by that, but in here, because we're sat on top of the screen that's about 9 feet wide, it was sort of in your face. But that's a minor criticism. You've got to expect that filmmaking is a battle. You can't always get everything absolutely perfect, and I think this was probably as close to perfect as you could get with everything that was going on, all the fighting and everyone having to be in the right place at the right time. Inevitably there are going to be occasions where you've just got to compromise and say that's as good as we're ever likely to get it, because it wasn't like these were quick cuts or anything like that. You were actually focusing on the people doing these fights, these sword fights, these gun fights, and just getting through it. So to be expected. There's one other thing I think I ought to mention, is that I think director Chad Stahelski, he must be a fan of Walter Hill's classic The Warriors, because even on the menu on this, you'll notice immediately there's a disc jockey and she's talking into the microphone with her lips close up. It looks like the same profile of the DJ that was in The Warriors, sort of doing the commentary with, "Hey boppers, all you boppers out there." And at one point I knew what was coming up, and it was going to be the song Nowhere to Run. And indeed, before she actually said, "Here's a track with him in mind or with you in mind," I said Nowhere to Run, and that's what came on. I think it's a different version of the song in John Wick Chapter 4, but nevertheless the same song, and it fits perfectly. So evidently he wanted to tie in there with another chase film, The Warriors, and it does seem to fit John Wick Chapter 4 very well. So, as you might expect, I think this one is highly recommended, but you've got to be prepared for an all-action shoot-'em-up or cut-'em-up. There's not really much to think about. I think it's one of those you've got to turn your brain off and just accept that you're going to be watching an all-action film from beginning to end for 2 hours and 49 minutes. It wasn't exactly my type of film, but I think I will grow to appreciate it now I know more about it, and I'll probably be able to go back and watch the other 3 films and really enjoy them all the way up through Chapter 4. So anyway, recommended on that basis, but not for everyone perhaps. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and perhaps consider subscribing so I'll be encouraged to carry on creating content like this. Until the next video, bye bye for now.